In the news tonight, borders inundated with people trying to leave containment zones. Cancer patients' treatment continues. And civil servants assisting frontline workers.
From the studios of FBC Suva, Atera Lendua.
Good evening, Fiji. Containment borders across the country were bustling today as displaced Fijians rushed to return home within the movement window approved by the Ministry of Health. The ministry had announced yesterday that people can go from one containment area to another without stopping at a non-containment zone until 11 p.m. tomorrow. Apinisa Wangarandovu reports there was an air of confusion amongst the public and those manning the borders regarding the travel.
Many waited in line at the minibus stand hoping to get a lift home from this morning. And only later this afternoon, the Health Ministry says minibuses are not allowed to cross borders.
Finally, government have announced that anybody wants to go back, they have arranged. But I really don't know they arranged the bus or no, but I have an idea that the transport is going, so I'm just waiting here to get a chance to get back.
I come here for off, then like about COVID-19 I can't walk, then I have to go back. From 2 weeks I stay here. Today I want to go home.
These Fijians are determined to return home even if it takes long to wait, in hopes of reuniting with their families. Heavy rain in the Central Division is also making it difficult for authorities to do their job.
Some of my family, they stuck here. I just came to pick them, my family, just going back to Nandi again. They was doing the schooling here, so no school, nothing. They want to go back.
Only private vehicles, taxis and pre-selected buses are allowed to cross borders.
People crossing this border are to note their details here before they leave for their next containment destination without stopping elsewhere. This is a one-way travel. The same goes for those coming into the capital city. Once you are allowed in, you cannot return.
This afternoon, the Health Ministry says individuals are allowed to travel from non-containment areas into containment areas, as well as individuals residing in one containment can move to another. However, movement from containment areas into non-containment areas is not allowed at this time. Apinisa Wangarandovu, FBC News.
We now join Apinisa live. Apinisa, what else can you tell us about the travel window for displaced Fijians?
Atera, the Western bus station was empty this morning. These as bus operators were not even aware if they are to operate. This led to a large crowd gathering here at the Vitimini stand, with people hoping to return home after 3 weeks of being stuck in the capital. Initially, only private vehicles were allowed. However, during this time, many, or rather some Vitimini had already been processed and were allowed to cross the containment borders. We were also alarmed of a bus leaving Lautoka for Suva with passengers on board. However, unfortunately, they have to cease travel after the first confirmation was received from the Permanent Secretary for Health. Also, in the meantime, bus operators will now be able to move across containment borders for the purpose of returning those who are stuck in any containment area and have their homes at any other containment area in the country. Some people had returned with their luggage to wherever they are staying in the hope that tomorrow they will come back here and have a chance to return to their homes after 3 weeks or almost a month of being away from their family. Atera.
Vinaka Apinisa. The Ministry of Health Head of Vaccination Task Force says the AstraZeneca vaccine has been proven to reduce the hospitalization of severe cases. Fiji rolled out its vaccination campaign in March and has so far administered more than 93,000 doses of COVID-19 AstraZeneca vaccines. The widespread vaccinations among Fijians is critical to ending this pandemic and keeping Fijians safe. Kritika Kumar reports.
AstraZeneca vaccine is seen to be effective against a lot of COVID-19 variants.
Against the South African variant, there's minimal known. Some studies have shown the protection may be less, but those studies were small. So there is a lot more that we can find out, but we know for sure AstraZeneca has shown protection against the UK variant.
Dr. Devi says they continue to learn more about the effectiveness of the vaccine as the vaccination progresses.
But we know for sure AstraZeneca has significantly, almost 100% reduced the hospitalization from severe disease of COVID. That's one thing for sure I can say.
Permanent Secretary for Health Dr. James Fong says an individual needs 2 doses of the vaccine to be fully protected.
Everyone needs to complete the full dosage regime, meaning 2 doses to achieve full protection from the virus.
Only once every Fijian who is eligible receives 2 doses of the vaccines and achieves the level of immunity will Fiji truly be safe from this deadly virus. Kritika Kumar, FBC News.
The Ministry of Health is closely liaising with parents of children living with cancer on when they can visit the hospital for their required treatment. The ministry says while chemotherapy treatment is still continuing, they are also mindful of the need to ensure the safety of these children with cancer during this pandemic. Christina Uluwai reports.
The Ministry of Health says they are assessing the progress of the patients and they need to come in for ward and clinic reviews.
Leadership is being able to make the decisions, but also leadership is being able to listen to important decisions in which life or death actually matters.
He told me that Rishabh got chemotherapy when maybe we're gonna call, then you can bring it for Rishabh for chemo.
A mother of a 5-year-old leukemia patient says she is following the advisory from the authorities for the safety of her child.
I just feel sorry for Rishabh because that COVID-19 is very dangerous for us going to.
Pulse Kids Fiji says that they are also providing necessary support for kids living with cancer.
Medicine that's not available at our main hospital, we do provide that from the private pharmacies. And also any type of blood test that needed to be done outside of the main hospital, we do provide that.
According to WOW's Kids, 6 children have passed away from cancer from January to April this year, while 67 remains under their support. The Ministry of Health is prioritizing the safety of all Fijians during this pandemic. Christiana Uluwai, FBC News.
Civil servants, including teachers, have been roped in to assist the Ministry of Health's effort in containing the COVID-19 pandemic. Permanent Secretary for Education, Dr. Angela Jokan, says this is on a voluntary basis. Kritika Kumar reports this is the time when everyone needs to work together and support each other.
The Permanent Secretary says they don't have the total number of teachers involved. However, some of them are administrative staff.
Our civil servants are involved, yes, including teachers and some other administrative staff. It's on voluntary basis, and as with any civil servant, this is the time that we need to all come together and help. So I think they're all doing. Whoever wishes can assist, and we know several teachers are involved.
Permanent Secretary for Health Dr. James Fong has clarified that civil servants will not be carrying out any medical frontline work.
So we actually need their help so that we can just concentrate on the medical bits of the operation. We have civil servants who are helping us pull data together.
Dr. Fong says the civil servants are not carrying out screenings. However, they are there to support the frontline medical response in other areas.
They're not doing the swabbing. They're not doing the swabbing. They may hold a gun, but you see our security man downstairs is also holding a gun. Yes.
Dr. Fong yesterday announced that the COVID-19 testing will only be conducted for people living in the 6 containment zones around Viti Levu. Kritika Kumar, FBC News.
Coming up, lockdown a last resort. And market was abuzz as Fijians prepare for Mother's Day. A national lockdown will be the last resort for the Ministry of Health to contain the virus. Permanent Secretary for Health Dr. James Fong says the public is therefore urged to be honest and cooperative with the screening procedure. Dr. Fong says health teams will be going house to house to check individuals for COVID-like symptoms. The Permanent Secretary says the public will be asked simple questions to determine their travel history in the area and must be honest with the information. He adds a national lockdown will be activated if the ministry has exhausted all the medical alternatives.
The results of the screening exercise will determine the need for larger, more stringent lockdown. That is a measure of absolute last resort that will be taken only and if only the data we obtain provide us with no other medical recourse.
2 men in their 20s were arrested in the Central Division within the last 24 hours for not wearing masks. This is the first non-mask wearing arrest made by the police. They were part of 50 people who were arrested for breaching the health restrictions in place as well as the curfew orders. Acting Commissioner of Police Rusiate Tundravu says they recorded 14 cases in the Western Division, of which 5 were arrested for drinking grog at the Tonuve village in KRC. 4 non-essential business operators in Lotoka were arrested for breaching the health restrictions. Of the 19 cases recorded in the Southern Division, 6 were found drunk at Raiwai. A 26-year-old carpenter was found drunk along the Nanuku area in Watuanga. Tundravu says 2 market vendors were found loitering during curfew hours at the Rewa Dairy roundabout in Nambua. The Northern Division recorded 3 cases and 12 people were arrested in the Eastern Division. The Ministry of Education will not hesitate to take disciplinary action against teachers found in breach of their code of conduct. Permanent Secretary for Education, Dr. Angela Jokhan, reminded teachers that as civil servants, they need to carry out their civic duty and refrain from speculation and negativity concerning the current situation and cases relating to COVID-19. Dr. Jokhan says teachers need to provide their support and ensure that the efforts of the Fijian government are realized. The Suva Municipal Market was buzzing this morning as vendors tried to make up for the sale lost from last weekend and customers trying to get the best deals for vegetables. Despite the increase in prices of produce, customers were out to get what they needed as they prepare for Mother's Day tomorrow. Cristiano Luai reports.
All of us struggle.
A food seller at the Suva Municipal Market could not hold back her tears as she shared her experience during this outbreak.
Sometimes I sell the food and boil the egg and cassava and struggle myself, no husband. And this time very hard.
Another vendor hopes she will be able to recover the loss she suffered last weekend from her sale today.
The amount of money that I wasted last week because I bought my produce at a very high price is about $200.
For a grandmother, the opening of the market today meant she can at least shop for Mother's Day celebration tomorrow.
This week good. If no open, very bad with us. No money, we can't shopping. Tomorrow Mother's Day, how can we buy something?
It doesn't feel like a typical Saturday here at the Suva Municipal Market, as some tables remain empty because some vendors who reside outside of the Suva containment area could not come here to sell their produce. But for the vendors that are here, it is yet another opportunity to support their families financially. Christiana Uluai, FBC News.
Methane, a greenhouse gas produced by agriculture, landfill and fossil fuels, is more important in tackling climate change than previously thought. This is according to a new UN report, which maintains that we already have the technology to reduce emissions. Coming up, investigation into alleged littering underway. And no June test for Fiji Mbathi. This and more coming up. The Ministry of Environment has started an investigation into an incident involving Fiji football referees director Rakesh Varman, who is alleged to have dumped rubbish on a beach along the Coral Coast in Singotoka. Varman was filmed collecting rubbish from the beach, which he claims was dumped by someone else. Talema Terukula reports.
This is what you've been doing.
Permanent Secretary for Environment Joshua Wycliffe confirms an investigation is underway since last night.
Procedures to follow in terms of what happened, when it happened, and the evidence that's available. All this is being examined, and appropriate resources from the ministry would be applied or deployed to look into this matter and get to the bottom of it.
Varman, who directed all comments to his lawyer, claims that he was threatened.
My instructions are that he was threatened under knife point to collect all the rubbish. And you can see the video footage itself says what my client says.
Varman also refuted all claims made against him in the video.
He was asked to collect all the rubbish, which he has done. There is no proof whatsoever that he has dumped the rubbish at the site.
Meanwhile, the Fiji Football Association has suspended Varman pending further investigations. Talima Terkula, FBC Sport.
It's quite sad that we haven't had any internationals last year, and just recently and yesterday we've received confirmation that there won't be any June test this year, and we're really looking forward to getting some game time ahead of the World Cup. But that match against Papua New Guinea has been shelved.
The Panthers have stretched their winning run to 9 after a whopping 48-0 victory over the Sharks in their NRL clash last night. Superstar half Nathan Cleary was in complete control and Charlie Staines crossing for a hat-trick. The Panthers had too much class for a Sharks side which committed 11 errors. Dalema Terkola reports. Newcastle moved to within 1 point of Premier League safety with an impressive 4-2 win over Leicester City. The Magpies move up to 13th, 12 points ahead of 18th place, while Foxes remain in 3rd. A heavy rain alert is now in force for the eastern half and southern parts of Viti Levu, Kandavu and nearby smaller islands, southern Lau and Lomaiviti group. A high-pressure system to the far south of Fiji directs a fresh and strong southeast wind flow over the group. In the west, a cloudy and humid day with a chance of showers late at night. Eastwards from Pacific Harbour to Suva, it was a gloomy day with rain experienced intermittently throughout the day. Up north, mostly fine weather in Labasa and cloudy periods with some showers and possible isolated afternoon thunderstorms for Savu-Savu. At sea, moderate to fresh easterly swells, southeast winds 25 to 30 knots, rough to very rough seas. Turning to the tides, the next high tide is at 5:05 a.m. tomorrow, followed by low tide at 11:22 a.m. Sunrise is at 6:22. Outlook for tomorrow for the rest of Fiji, expect cloudy periods with afternoon or evening showers and thunderstorms with heavy falls. And looking further onto Monday, occasional rain, heavy at times, and a few thunderstorms over most places. Recapping our main stories, borders inundated with people trying to leave containment zones, cancer patients' treatment continues, and civil servants assisting frontline workers. For these stories and others, you can tune in daily to our sister radio station, Gold FM. To our poll question this week, we're asking, do you think some Fijians were lying to get food ration in the Suva-Nosore corridor? Visit our FBC website to answer. And just before we wrap up, here are some of the COVID-19 details confirmed by the Ministry of Health this evening. There are no new cases of COVID-19 today. There are currently 37 active cases in the country, and none of the patients are severely ill, and 12 cases have recovered. The ministry has also noted an abuse of the travel window provided, as some people have traveled from containment zones to non-containment zones. The ministry is tracking all these people. Also, with tomorrow being Mother's Day, the Permanent Secretary for Health, Dr. James Fong, is urging families to avoid unnecessary gathering as much as possible. The ministry is calling on Fijians to avoid movement as much as possible in order to stop the spread of this virus. You can send us newsworthy pictures and videos. Email fbcnews@fbc.com.fj or share it with us via our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And you can also download our FBC app to keep updated with the very latest in news and sports, and also listen to our 6 radio stations live. That's your news for tonight. I'll see you again tomorrow. You stay safe and good night.